विद्यार्थी मित्रांनो, आपण सर्वजण माहिती आणि जनसंचार या क्षेत्रामध्ये काम करत आहोत. इन्फॉर्मेशन अँड कम्युनिकेशन टेक्नॉलॉजी. इन्फॉर्मेशन आणि कम्युनिकेशन टेक्नॉलॉजीच्या या क्षेत्रामध्ये कार्य करत असताना आपल्याला वेगवेगळ्या प्रकारच्या साधनांचा वापर करावा लागतो. म्हणजे आता साधारणतः मी आपल्याशी संवाद साधतोय, त्यावेळेस संवाद साधत असताना मोबाईल फोन आणि त्याचबरोबर इंटरनेटचा भरपूर मोठ्या प्रमाणावर आपण सगळेजण वापर करत आहोत. आणि ज्यावेळेस आपण दूरस्थ शिक्षण प्रणालीमध्ये सगळेजण आपण आहोत, रिमोट एज्युकेशन सिस्टीम, व्हर्च्युअल एज्युकेशन सिस्टीम, तर त्यावेळेस तर निश्चितपणे आपल्याला ह्या इन्फॉर्मेशन कम्युनिकेशन आणि टेक्नॉलॉजीच्या सर्व साधनांचा उपयोग करणं आज गरजेचं झालेलं आहे, अत्यावश्यक झालेलं आहे. शिक्षणाची प्रक्रिया ही करोनाच्या या परिस्थितीमध्ये थांबू नये यासाठी म्हणून आपण या सगळ्या शैक्षणिक पद्धतीचा अवलंब करत आहोत. परंतु 50 वर्षापूर्वीची परिस्थिती मात्र यापेक्षा वेगळी होती आणि आजची परिस्थिती थोडीफार वेगळी आहे. या सगळ्या इन्फॉर्मेशन कम्युनिकेशन टेक्नॉलॉजीच्या साधनांचा अतिरेक होता सुद्धा कामा नये. म्हणजे काही दिवसांपूर्वीच वर्तमानपत्रांमध्ये येत असणाऱ्या बातम्या आहे की अमुक कंपनीचा मोबाईल हवा आहे. आपल्या घरच्यांची, पालकांची कुवत नसताना सुद्धा काही विद्यार्थी, त्यांचे पाल्य त्या पालकांना अमुक कंपनीचाच मोबाईल मला हवा म्हणून हट्ट करून बसले. आणि वास्तविक पाहता त्याचा उपयोग काय, तर सोशल मीडिया, फेसबुक, व्हॉट्सॲप या साधनांच्या वापरासाठी त्याला मोबाईल हवा होता. मग असे सुद्धा दुरुपयोग होता कामा नये. आणि हेच ओळखून 50 वर्षापूर्वीचा जो कालावधी आहे, ज्यावेळेस नुकतेच टेलिफोन सगळे अस्तित्वामध्ये यायला सुरुवात झाली होती, टेलिफोनचा शोध लागला होता, त्यावेळेस सुद्धा अशा या इलेक्ट्रॉनिक गॅजेट्सचा वापर आणि त्याचा अतिरेक होता कामा नये. आणि जर या वस्तू आपल्या आयुष्यामध्ये नसतील तर त्याच्या वाचून काही आपलं बिघडणार नाही, असं सुद्धा भाकीत जे आहे ते विल्यम प्लोमर या लेखकाने केलेलं आहे. विल्यम प्लोमर हे ब्रिटिश नॉवेलिस्ट आणि त्यांचाच एक जो प्रोज आहे तो प्रोज आपल्याला या वर्षीच्या आपल्या या दुसऱ्या सेमिस्टरमध्ये म्हणजे चौथ्या सेमिस्टरमध्ये आपल्याला शिकायचा आहे. तो म्हणजे ऑन नॉट ॲन्सरिंग द टेलिफोन बाय विल्यम प्लोमर. काय म्हणतात हे विल्यम प्लोमर, नेमके विल्यम प्लोमर कोण आहे त्याच्याबद्दल आपण जरा थोडी माहिती घेऊया. William Charles Franklin Plomer was born in 1903 and died in 1973. Was a British novelist, poet and literary editor. He was born in South Africa but completed his education in the United Kingdom. He lived in Japan for a short while. Hence he described himself as an Anglo-African Asian. In his first novel, Turbot Wolf, which was published in 1925, he expressed his anger against racial discrimination and echoed the same sentiment in his collection of short stories titled I Speak of Africa, which was published in 1927. Plomer was also known for his sharp wit and a deep sense of humor, which he displayed both in his writings and in his talks on the radio. So he was a British novelist, writer, short story writer and literary editor. And now what about the text that we are going to learn, that is on not answering the telephone. The following text is a talk given by William Plomer on the British Broadcasting Corporation, that is BBC, in which he discusses the invention of the telephone in a humorous vein. He finds that such gadgets are sometimes more of a burden than a boon. He makes some astute observations about mechanical devices and their users. So, sometimes it is observed that all these gadgets, electronic gadgets, they are going to be proved as a curse or as a burden, except as a boon or as an helping tool for carry out all our work in a very systematic manner. So it is on the use, up to what extent we are depend on these electronic gadgets, that is going to be decided whether it is a boon or it is going to be a burden or not answering the telephone. I will read out the text, then we will analyze in next videos. What is the text? If at the end of a conversation somebody says to me, as soon as I know, I will ring you up, he is taking too much for granted. He is proposing to attempt the impossible. So I have to say, I am afraid you can't. You see, I am not on the telephone. I just haven't got a telephone. Reactions to this are various. Some people say, oh, but you must have a telephone, as if they thought I had mislaid it somewhere or forgotten about it. Some people say, how terribly inconvenient. How can you do without a telephone? But the usual reaction is astonishment. And although I regard myself as a quite conventional sort of character, I find myself being stared at as a wild or willful eccentric, especially when somebody says, well, if I can't ring you up, perhaps you will ring me up. And I reply, perhaps, but I am more likely to write to you. Why don't I have a telephone? Not because I pretended to be wise or prose as unusual. There are two chief reasons. Because I don't really like the telephone, and because I find I can still work and play, eat, breathe and sleep without it. Why don't I like the telephone? Because I think it is a paste and a time waster. It may create unnecessary suspense and anxiety, as when you wait for an expected call that doesn't come, or irritating delay, as when you keep ringing a number that is always engaged. As for speaking in a public telephone booth, that seems to me really horrible. You would not use it unless you were in a hurry. And because you are in a hurry, you will find other people waiting before you. When you do get into the box, you are half asphyxiated by stale, unventilated air, unflavored with cheap face powder and chain smoking, and by the time you have begun your conversation, your back is chilled by the cold looks of somebody who is fidgeting to take your place. If you have a telephone in your own house, you will admit that it tends to ring when you least want it to ring. When you are asleep or in the middle of a meal or a conversation, and when you are just going out or when you are in your bath. Are you strong minded enough to ignore it, to say to yourself, well, it will all be the same in 100 years' time? You are not. You think there may be some important news or message for you. Have you never rushed dripping from the bath or chewing from the table or dazed from the bed only to be told that you are a wrong number? You were told the truth. In my opinion, all telephone numbers are wrong numbers. If, of course, your telephone rings and you decide not to answer it, then you will have to listen to an idiotic bell ringing and ringing in what is supposed to be the privacy of your own home. You might as well buy a bicycle bell and ring it yourself. Suppose you ignore the telephone when it rings, and suppose that for once somebody has an important message for you. I can assure you that if a message is really important, it will reach you sooner or later. Think of the proverb, ill news travels space. I must say good news seems to travel just as fast, and think of the saying. The truth will come out, and it will. But suppose you answer the telephone when it rings. If when you take off the receiver, you say, hello, to a total stranger. A thing you would certainly think twice about before doing in public if you were English. But perhaps when you take off the receiver, you give your number or your name, but you don't even know whom you are giving it to. Perhaps you have been indiscreet enough to have your name and number printed in the telephone directory, a book with a large circulation, a successful book so often reprinted as to make any author envious, a book more in evidence than Shakespeare or the Bible, and found in all sorts of private and public places. By your self advertisement, you have enabled any stranger, bore, intruder, or criminal to engage you in conversation at a moment's notice in what ought to be the privacy of your own home. It serves you right if you find it impossible to escape from someone who wants something for nothing, or from some reporter attempting to intrude the private life of some friends who have just eloped or met with a fatal accident. But you will say you need not have your name printed in the telephone directory, and you can have a telephone which is only usable for outgoing calls. Besides, you will say, isn't it important to have a telephone in case of sudden emergency, that is, illness, accident, or fire? Of course, you are right. But here, in a thickly populated country like England, one is seldom far from a telephone in case of dreadful necessity. All the same, I felt an instant sympathy with a well known actor when I heard him on the radio the other day. He was asked, suppose you were left alone to live on a desert island and you were allowed to take just one luxury with you, what would you choose? I would take a telephone, he said, and I would push the wire into the sand, and my greatest pleasure would be to sit and look at it and to think. It will never ring, and I shall never have to answer it. If, like me, one is without telephone, somebody is sure to say, oh, but don't you find you have to write an awful lot of letters? The answer to that is yes, but I should have to write an awful lot of letters anyway. This may bring the remark, ah, well, if you don't have a telephone, at least you must have a typewriter. And the answer to that is no. What? No telephone and no typewriter? Do please explain why? Well, I am a professional man of letters, and when I was younger, I thought a typewriter would be convenient. I even thought it was necessary and that editors and publishers would expect anything sent to them to be typewritten. So I bought a typewriter and taught myself to type, and for some years I typed away busily. But I did not enjoy typing. I happen to enjoy the act of writing. I enjoy forming letters or words with a pen, and I never could enjoy tapping the keys of a typewriter. There again there was a bell, only a little bell that rang at the end of each line, but still a bell. And the fact is, I am not mechanically minded, and the typewriter is a machine. I have never been really drawn to machines. I don't like oiling, cleaning, or mending them. I do not enjoy making them meek. To control them gives me no sense of power, or not the kind of power that I find interesting. And machines do not like me. When I touch them, they tend to break down, get jammed, catch fire, or blow up. As with telephones and typewriters, so with cars. I obtained my first driving license in South Africa at the age of 17, having been taught to drive in rush hours in the middle of busy city of Johannesburg. I needed the car for use in another part of Africa where in those days there was hardly any motor traffic. The actual process of driving soon became automatic, and my sole idea was to get from one place to another as soon as possible.